America, and welcome to The Tip here at agendatruth.com, where the truth is our only agenda. We've got an interesting episode for you tonight, so you're going to have to bear with me. I'm going to do something a little different. I actually had this entire script on the jobs report from last week that I was going to talk about, but I'm just not feeling it, so I decided that we'll save that for later for another date. There's some very interesting information that's going on today, and for today's episode, I'm just going to talk to you from my heart. I sit down and we got all these presidential debates and things going on, and we're sitting down and we're having to pick between two people for America, and it always seems like that we're having to pick between the lesser of two evils, right? It's like, and when you do that, it's not a good outcome for America. It's like, this one's not as bad as this guy. He's bad, but he's not as bad as this guy. And so what happens in that is no matter what, America's stuck with just bad. I started watching the debates though. You know, we had about 2 weeks ago, we had the first presidential debate, and last week we had the vice presidential debate, and tonight we're going to have the second presidential debate. And I want you to, and as I was watching this, I was reflecting back on some things. I was reflecting back on those debates, and there's some things that I want you to watch for tonight with some new understanding, some new thought processes, something different that you're not seeing from the mainstream media. I sit down and I think about all the news that has been coming out, and it's a lot. It's a lot to assess. Believe me, it's tough. There's so much information coming out nowadays that it can be completely jumbled up, and it's hard to put it all together. But I sat back this weekend and really did some soul searching and thinking and looking at everything in a full context. And here's some assessments and some little notations that I kind of came across during the very first presidential debate between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. You know, the media is all out there saying that Romney just whooped President Obama, just gave him a shellacking, right? I mean, if you sat there, if you were an Obama fan and you watched it, you were sitting there looking at it and going, what the heck is he doing, right? How come you're not fighting? Why are you letting Mitt Romney just whoop you? I mean, where are you out? Why is that happening? I even sat there, I'm not an Obama supporter, I'm not a Romney fan either, but I really do not like President Obama because I understand his principles and his historical values. I understand what his end game is. But I sat there even going, gosh, is this guy just going to take this? Is he not going to push and fight? And I sat back and I noticed that when Mitt Romney would say things and would make comments or bring out points or something, I noticed President Obama would always do this right here. Smile and look down and laugh it off. And it got me thinking. I was like, what is this all about? Hold that thought. Then I sat down and the vice presidential debate came up between VP Joe Biden and Romney's running mate, Paul Ryan. And during that whole debate, the vice president, when Paul Ryan would be making his points and outlining what the quote-unquote Romney administration would do, what did Joe Biden do the entire time, the entire debate? He's getting a lot of flack for this, but he laughed. Every time Ryan would say something, Joe Biden would cut him off, interrupt him, laugh, and give that big smile. I mean, that guy smiled and laughed the whole freaking debate for the most part. And whoever does Joe Biden's dental work is probably the best dentist in the entire planet of, the entire world. I mean, that guy's got the whitest, most perfect teeth I've ever seen. And believe me, you saw a lot of it during the vice presidential debate. But what did Biden do? Every time Paul Ryan would say something, he would give a chuckle and a laugh. But it was that interesting type of laugh. I've had that laugh done to me before. And I think probably you have had similar laughs and chuckles done to you. And it's when somebody believes you don't know what you're talking about. They do that to you. Like right now, there's probably people watching this show or watch my show, and when I say something, they sit there and say, oh man, this Tony guy doesn't know what the heck he's talking about, It happens. That's the way Joe Biden was laughing at Paul Ryan. And if you want to know the truth, when I watched back to the first presidential debate with President Obama, what did he do? He would shake his head and nod off in this little smirky smile as if, Romney, you don't have a clue. Last night, I couldn't sleep very much. And I was watching some television, flipping channel surfing. It was like 1 a.m. or midnight or something like that. And my brain gears are just going. And I flipped it over to PBS, Public Broadcasting Service. And I'll tell you, I never watch PBS. I never do. I don't know why I don't. I think I should more after what I watched last night. There was this show called Frontline on, and I'm sure many of you probably watch Frontline. And I watched this, and it was a special episode that just came out. It was called, I think it was called The Choice of 2012. And this show, and I sat down, and I'll be honest with you, when I put it on there, I anticipated there being an extreme bias. I anticipated it being just this anti-Romney smear campaign thing. And what it did was it did a very good reflection of both presidents, where they came from, who they are, what their background was, who is their family. And I noticed something. I paid attention. It was not just an anti-Romney smear campaign. Quite frankly, if you know the truth, I don't think they did President Obama any favors. As a matter of fact, when you watch, you need to go back. If you can YouTube it, Google it, whatever, you need to look up PBS's Frontline that came on Sunday night. That's called The Choice of 2012, and you need to watch that, okay? I highly recommend you watch that. What I learned is when I see President Obama's background, I get excited and depressed at the same time. What I'm excited about is you can see where a person can come from nothing, from the bottom of the barrel, from the worst type of situation you could possibly think of being raised in, and can come up and become the President of the United States of America. That's amazing. Only in America can this happen, okay? But at the same time, it's depressing because I sit down and I say, wow, the President of America probably doesn't have much American roots. He's from Indonesia and Kenya and all these other places. When you watch President Obama's background presentation, I can see why this guy doesn't love America. Notice I said the word love America. Hold on to that for just a moment. And when you watch Mitt Romney's background, you can see a context of someone who's raised in America through the ranks and is very religious and connected to the Mormon church and about giving and goes on this Mormon mission and learns how to live without nothing and work from the ground up and going door to door and having to overcome rejection. You learn of Romney's background in business, that his job is to come into companies that are falling apart and become whoever he needs to become to flip that business, make it profitable, make it work, to save it. That's his background. What I found very interesting as well was when it was showing Romney during the 2008 Republican presidential campaign, in which he was not selected as the nominee then, and all of his stances and where he stood and what he stood for. It wasn't resonating with the Republican people, so he got out of the race. And if you go back and watch his comments at debates and things there, and then you come back and you look at the Mitt Romney of today, it's like two different people. It's like, who is this guy? This is not the same guy that ran in 2008. He's something else. Let me tell you what Romney's done. He's done exactly what he knows how to do best. He's looked at the situation. He's seen what tides the country is moving in. And what does he do? He adapts. He becomes what he needs to become to go in and save that situation. He becomes a salesman, and he sells what needs to be sold. He is only selling what there is a demand for right now. And the minute that the demand changes, Mitt Romney can change and become the man that is demanded, no matter what that is. whenever I watched this episode of Frontline, let me tell you something I noticed. It showed a lot of things that President Obama has done since becoming president, but it also showed a lot of things that Mitt Romney did while governor. And what's interesting is while governor, Mitt Romney did exactly a lot of the exact same things that President Obama did. Exactly. Romneycare. Put it through. Obamacare. Forced it through. You know, Romney, as a Mormon, you think would be pro-life and would want no abortions whatsoever. But what did he do? He's flip-flopped back and forth. He's advocated, you can look up a million times where he's advocated for being pro-choice and supporting abortion. Barack Obama, by far, is the president, by far, that advocates for abortion the most, for killing of innocent children. They're the same. What I notice is they are the exact same people. And I think, now I'm going to try to bring all this together. The reason why I think Joe Biden was laughing at Paul Ryan so much during the debate isn't because of the topics were funny. I think it's because Paul Ryan probably genuinely believes what he's saying. I think Mitt Romney knew that he was going to have a problem as a presidential election with gathering that conservative base based off Romney's record. And so what did he do? He chose a running mate that is extremely conservative, that can reach out to that Tea Party group, that strong conservative base. People, the conservatives, they can rally behind Paul Ryan. They may be a little iffy about rallying behind Mitt Romney. And I think Joe Biden knows this. And I think Joe Biden was laughing at Paul Ryan in a way of, you don't have a clue. Here you are, you're advocating for all this stuff and you're promoting Mitt Romney and you're against Barack Obama and the Obama administration. And what Joe Biden was laughing about is that Mitt Romney is the exact same as Barack Obama. And he's sitting there saying, he said, Ryan, you don't have a clue, buddy. Mitt Romney is using you. Mitt Romney is using you, Congressman Paul Ryan. Do you understand that? You are being used. Mitt Romney does not care about your ideals. Mitt Romney is Barack Obama. They're the same type of administration. You're being used. And while you're being used, here's what Joe Biden's really laughing about. You're going to be the vice president, Mr. Ryan. I know that everyone would like to think that that's a big, powerful position. You know what Joe Biden's really laughing about? All you really get to do is go around and make a bunch of speeches. That's it. There's nothing amazing about being VP. There's only one way that the VP gets to really have any type of power whatsoever. And I'm not going to say it because if I do, I'll probably get our studio raided and black bagged and NDAA'd right off, right? And indefinite detention, and you'll never see me again. But think about this. President Obama signed the NDAA and Mitt Romney accepted it. So what Biden's laughing about during the whole debate, Mr. Ryan, is that you don't have a clue. You don't know what's going on. Mitt Romney and Barack Obama are both progressives. And what's going on with this progressive revolution is it doesn't matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter if you vote for Barack Obama or if you vote for Mitt Romney. We're getting a progressive. It's going to be the same agenda. And Mr. Ryan, you're not going to be able to stop it. We're being forced to choose between the lesser two evils, and we're getting evil one way or another. Now, President Obama, why didn't he fight in the first presidential debate? Well, some news came out about a ring that President Obama was wearing, and in Arabic it says there's no God but Allah. It's very interesting that our president wears that. It makes me think back about the day when President Obama first took office. Do you remember when he bowed to the Saudi king? And here we are now, we have Al-Qaeda rebels fighting in Syria, trying to overthrow the Syrian government. And Al-Qaeda carries the black flag of the caliphate. You remember that? We've talked about that on a few episodes. What I think is happening is, I remember when President Barack Obama became a senator. And when he became a senator, I remember he grew easily bored with the Senate. The Senate wasn't enough for him. He barely showed up, missed a lot of votes, things of that nature. And he had his eyes on the presidency. Let me tell you why I don't think you see President Barack Obama fighting for the presidency anymore. I don't think he wants it. Now, you supporters of Barack Obama out there, this is going to shock you. I don't think President Obama wants to be president of the United States anymore. He's bored of it. He's bored. I think the first 2 years were exciting because he could get done what he wanted to get done, and all of a sudden then he didn't have this complete Democratic majority anymore around 2010 at the midterm elections, and now he's tired of it. He can't get done things to be done the way he wants it to, so what do we get? We get a bunch of executive orders, but that are completely against the Constitution. But we definitely don't have a constitutional government anymore. Congress isn't really doing anything. The Senate's not doing anything. So Barack Obama's just made it a dictatorship, and he'll do everything by executive order if he has to. To him, government's going to get done what he wants done. But then I got to thinking, what's been occurring over the last 4 years? Have you noticed things with the United Nations have been stepping out? We've got that video that we showed several times about Leon Panetta saying that we have to go ask permission from the UN first. And then we'll come back and tell Congress what we're going to do about Libya. We got to get permission from the UN. Then Barack Obama has championed this big thing with the UN as far as the Agenda 21 program. And then also you've seen UN make a big push to try to do gun control in the United States. Right now, the UN is pushing for a global internet tax. And it's very possible it could go through. It's gaining a lot of steam. So I got to thinking, President Obama doesn't want the presidency anymore. He's bored with it. He wants more. I found it ironic that not too long ago a poll came out that if President Obama, if the world got the vote on this United States presidential election, then President Obama would win by 65%. That was a poll that was just taken. What do we need to destroy the United Nations? We need a world war. Are we close to that? Do we see the Middle East on fire? Do we see things over there going crazy and wrong? Do we see things heating up? Is the caliphate, the Muslim caliphate, making a big push? I think that when the United Nations, there's a world war, and we think the United Nations failed to prevent it, that's when they'll make their move for a one world government. And I think President Obama is bored with the U.S. presidency. And I think his goal is that he wants to run for president of the world, whatever you want to call it, whether it's United Nations or the one world government, the NWO, whatever the elite want to call it when World War III breaks out. I think President Obama is bored with being just the president of the United States. Why stop here? His whole life he's been moving around and trying to get out of being stuck in a box, to be better than where he was at. Whether it was moving from Indonesia or from Kenya to Indonesia to Hawaii, from my mom taking care of me to some guy adopting me, to my grandparents taking care of me, to going to school, from that school to this college, and from that college to that college, and from that college to that college. From the Senate, run for Congress, didn't work that. Run for Senate, get in, bored with the Senate, move to the presidency. I'm bored with the presidency, so I'm not even going to fight for it. Want to move on up. It's very interesting to me when you think about it this way. Could it be that, and that's why they're fine with Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney will only expand and continue on what President Obama's been working on as far as the United States is concerned. And I ask myself, what do we do? What do we do? We're stuck, right? We sit down and we say, wow, we've got Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. No, you don't. There's a lot of candidates that are on the ballot. But do you hear about them from the mainstream media? No, you don't. You don't hear about them from the mainstream media because the mainstream media is co-opted by the two-party system. The progressives took it over. Have you noticed that there's about 4 other people from different parties that are actually on the presidential ballots? Why don't they get to participate in the presidential debates? Why is it only the Republicans and the Democrats? Because the progressives own the mainstream media. They're not going to allow that. Well, then they tell you that, no, we don't give coverage to these people over here because they're irrelevant. The people don't want them. Really? So now we allow the mainstream media to decide what is relevant and what is not for us? Wow. That's a lot of freedom, liberty, and control, right? I think I remember reading something in the Declaration of Independence that the government the Founding Fathers, they outlined a section that our government is to adhere to our Constitution or to the principles outlined in the Declaration of Independence. I'm one of these people that when I read things, I understand the principle of it, but I'm horrible at quoting it and things of that nature. Of course, unless I got it in a teleprompter to remind me the exact words. But basically it said that we're to have a government that adheres to these principles. And if our government ever becomes a government that does not adhere to these principles, then we the people are supposed to rise up and dismantle this government and replace it with one that does. I'm really beginning to question if our system currently is not just completely corrupted beyond repair by typical means. Here we all are. We're good people. We're law-abiding citizens that really care for our country. We really do. And what do? We live by that, well, we'll vote them in and we'll vote them out. We'll vote them in and we'll vote them out. But you know what? Nothing changes. It doesn't change. We vote them in and we vote them out all the time. And what really changes? Our economy is in the dumps, period. And it's not changing. We've been racking up debt for years. Even under President Bill Clinton, the debt went up. We had a balanced budget, but the debt went up, right? It didn't change. And it's because what has happened is the system is so corrupted and the mainstream media has it that we don't have a choice between a Republican or a Democrat. We've got a choice between a progressive or a progressive. At the end of the day, it's the progressive agenda that wins. Who is Barack Obama's number one donor? Goldman Sachs. Who is Mitt Romney's number one donor? Goldman Sachs. Wow, does that not ring any bells? I'm just shocked that we sit down and we have a president who doesn't fight in a debate because he doesn't want to be president. And our only choice, if you look at his history of who he really is, he doesn't represent the Mormon church. They want to present that he's some evangelical person that's this God-fearing person, and that the Mormon church believes that people should take care of people. I like Mormons. I'm not Mormon, I'm a Baptist, but I can sympathize with some of your ideology. I believe that God calls us to take care of our neighbor, not the government. But what does Mitt Romney do? Mitt Romney, in every piece of legislation that he writes, tells me that he has no faith in God. Mitt Romney has no faith in God. Mitt Romney's faith is in the government. Because as governor, all he did was grow government to do the things that God's people should do. That's it. He's just like Barack Obama. No faith in our God. Barack Obama's faith is in a God called Allah. There, I said it. Period. Quite frankly, if you want to know the truth, I think our president is a leader, a soldier of Islam, and is one of the key factors of leading the caliphate. I think that's why they laugh at Mitt Romney. I think that's why Joe Biden laughs at Paul Ryan. Ha ha, son, you don't have a clue. Mitt Romney's using you. That's why they laugh so much. And yet we sit here and we say, don't waste your vote. You got to vote for this guy or this guy. That's it. Anything else, you're wasting your vote, right? Unplug yourself and think critically for a moment. We don't have to go down this path, America. You got to have courage. Get some courage in your heart to open your eyes and say, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. But I'm not going to do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 100 years. You are trying to play by the rules to throw out and change a government that does not play by the rules. They make laws that they don't adhere to. They make laws that you have to adhere to that they don't. Your congressmen and senators are corrupt to the core. Why is it that they go in only having so much money and they come out multi-millionaires? Because they're allowed to do insider trading. It's all about money and growing government to them. There is one thing, my friends, that's going to save our country, and one thing only. It's not an election. It's not electing one of these two baboons that are set out to destroy America and fundamentally transform it. Mitt Romney is not going to fundamentally restore it. One of my previous episodes, I talked about preparing your heart, mind, and soul, and I had one of my audience members email me, and they asked me, how do you want us to prepare, Chris? Weapons, whatever? Nah, guess what? That's what you want me to say, you progressives, so that you can claim me as advocating violence or something. That way you can come in and shut us down. No, let me tell you what, America. You want to know what we're going to have to change? You want to save our country? What is taking place right now is a battle of principalities. It's not of flesh and blood. It's a battle of principalities. It's a battle of good versus evil. And I refuse to vote for evil. I refuse to vote for evil, whether it's massive evil or less evil than that guy. To me, it's evil. I refuse to represent that. America, you've got to turn your heart and your eyes and your mind back toward God. Period. Do for your neighbor. We don't need the government the way it is today. We have too many people who are dependent on the government. I mean, look at the presidential election. This is how dependent we are on government. We are really all up in arms over who's going to be president. We really care. Because we think the government's going to do something for us. We think the government's hurting us. We think the government's helping us. No. Our blessings come from God and God alone, not from man. Look at the history of our country. Our country has turned its eyes away from God, and now we're putting our faith in government and our faith in man. And we build up these great towers to the sky, and what does God do? God tears them down. We build up a grand economy and say, look, we can do it on our own. What does God do? God tears our economy down. God is not going to bless a wicked nation. God does not bless the wicked. God's people need to start standing up with courage and speaking out for God and winning souls for His kingdom. And you've got to prepare your heart, mind, and soul for that, because, my friends, what's coming our way is going to be one of the hardest things we've ever endured. And if you don't have God in your life, you're not going to make it. And as much as I hate saying it, Mitt Romney is a wolf in sheep's clothing. They're using him with his religious background to slip in. When if you look at Mitt Romney's record, he's proven to me time and time again that he doesn't have faith in God, that his faith lies in the government, which is man-made. We have to rise up, America. We've got to do something different. Can't do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. I anticipate there'll be people who give me a lot of flack for this episode. And probably like, boy, Chris Tony either A, needs to stay off script more often, or that guy definitely needs to be told what to say, one or the other. Because I guarantee you today's episode is not, quote unquote, politically correct. I'm really worried about our country. I'm really worried about the things that we're facing and what we're about to go through. And I'm going to tell you all that we need a lot of prayer. We need you to pray for our country. We need you to step up and have a heart to take care of your neighbor, because we're going to need each other. United we stand, divided we fall. And this is not a Republican or a Democrat, or all that stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is, who do you belong to? Do you belong to the government? Are you their slave? Or do you belong to God? Who's in here? The world? Stuff? Money? Government? Power? Is that what's in here? Or is love and charity, forgiveness and kindness in here? You better be ready to fight. You better be ready to fight. Because we've got a fight on our hands, people. No matter who wins this election. By the way, the mainstream media only covers the two-party system. I can tell you right now, America, we've got a fight coming on our hands. I think what's interesting is where Paul Ryan doesn't have a clue is I watched in the vice presidential debate, he talked about the hardcore sanctions against Iran and how that was going to solve all the problems over there. And we've got President Obama, who has now really finally stepped up the sanctions. And we see their economy collapsing. And I think the United States' goal is that this is somehow going to get the people to overthrow the regime and get rid of Ahmadinejad and end the nuclear program and all this stuff. That's not what I see happening. This last week, I haven't really seen a lot of speeches from President Ahmadinejad, but I've seen a lot of speeches from the Ayatollah Khomeini, I guess that's how you say that? Iran's supreme religious leader. I've seen a lot of speeches from him. And I think Barack Obama is doing exactly what he's doing. He's doing it on purpose. What these sanctions are doing is their currency is collapsing. People are now starving. There's no chicken. There's no meat over there for the most part. And whatever there is, they can't really afford to buy it. And instead of these people getting mad and going to overthrow the Iranian government, what's happening is the Ayatollah Khomeini is coming out and uniting the people as a religion. He's uniting them against Israel and the United States. They're blaming all these economic hardships on us. And it's uniting the people under one goal, one banner, one flag, and that's the flag of Islam, the caliphate, against Israel and the United States. And I think President Obama and them were laughing all the way. It's exactly what they want. And what they don't realize is Congressman Paul Ryan, or Vice Presidential Candidate Paul Ryan, however you want to call him, thinks that harder sanctions is going to end the Iranian regime. It's not. It's only going to unify them more, sir. You're being used. I apologize if this episode was a little confusing today. I just had a lot of stuff on my heart and mind that I wanted to share with you. I just had a whole script to say about the jobs where I get prepared for you. But when I came in this morning, I just felt like I needed to get this off my chest. I needed to get this out to you from my heart to you. We need to pray, America. We've got to turn our eyes back toward God, because we are so going to need Him. Good night, and I hope you enjoy the presidential debate this evening. But now, after watching this, hopefully you'll watch tonight's debate with a new set of eyes and ears and see what you hear. Good night. We'll see you next week.